name is Brenda. I am with the California Department of Insurance. Now, while we're queuing up the PowerPoint, I want to get a gauge of how many of you in this room know the functionalities of the California Department of Insurance. All right, I'm in a perfect room. I love it. How many of you guys have homeowners insurance? Homeowners insurance? All right, how many of you have auto insurance? Life insurance? Annuities? All right, those are some basic examples of the lines of insurance that as a department we regulate. So we enforce law, right, that is written. The best way I can explain it is we're the policing for insurance companies. Our main priority is consumer protection. Who is the consumer? That's right, it's you. So our main role is to ensure that you are protected, that your rights, that what you're paying for, you get. And that is our main role. Now, in terms of some of the resources that are available to you, is if you have any questions, how many of you guys actually read your entire policy? Right? All right, one. I always have one in a room. All right. Now the next follow-up question to that, to the one in the room that read the entire question, the entire policy is, did you understand everything? And that's the answer. Typically it's, yeah, no, I didn't understand everything. So the good news is that the California Department of Insurance is able to assist you to understand your policies. So understanding what's in there, what's the exclusions, and so that way you understand fully what you have on there. Now, part of that is, oh, that's important. Now, part of that is making sure that you are able to enforce it when it is. Give me a quick second because I thought I could multitask, but I really can't think of my password and think of what I'm going to say at the same time because I have my password is like 13 characters, right? Because we want to make sure we protect. While I do this, why don't you stand up and stretch for a minute? If you had your coffee this morning, your little breaks. All right. Now, part of also what we do is we actually, interesting fact is we have a small police department that enforces, really focuses on investigating fraud. We ensure to make sure that you're protected. So if you ever suspect of fraud, scams, you want to make sure that you're reporting that to our department. Because when you see crime, what do? Who do you report it to? Hopefully the police department, right? So in terms of insurance, if you suspect fraud, if you suspect any scams, or if you're facing yourself with insurers not being fair with your claim process, you want to go ahead and reach out to us. We can go to the next slide. Now, we've already touched up on some of these points. Most importantly, of course, is that we do set standards for agents and brokers. So making sure that they are licensed, not just anyone. So you can also verify those through our webpage to get that information. And we do resolve consumer complaints. If you're getting a cancellation notice, you want to go ahead and call us as well. Any questions, doesn't matter how big or small, you have to understand we're here to protect you. We're here to ensure you know what your rights are so that you can properly navigate this system. You can go ahead to the next slide. Now, these are some of the educational, our role under the Community Relations and Outreach Branch is really to come out and really educate you all that, number one, we exist as a department. Number two, make sure you're aware that we do not sell insurance. We hold insurers accountable, right? The next thing is we can only enforce law that has already been, we enforce regulation, right? We do that through the different means, which is community meetings, town halls, webinars, social media. So definitely stop by if you have audience that you want to bring the information out to. Go to the next. Now, how many of you guys have actually seen this video? It's a demonstration with Caloca, IVHS. I'm not going to play the entire video, but essentially this is what's going to really give you a perspective. As you take a look at this image, we have the commissioner introduced with a partnership with Caloca, governor's office, standardized steps that you as a consumer can take to protect your home. We learned from the previous fire chief presentation about how embers travel and how homes get ignited. Now this is how you can protect your home. And there's 10 steps that you can take. I'm not going to go into every single one of them, but I will emphasize on a few things. One of the things you'll notice here, and let me explain what happened here. The home on your left, the home on the right. The home on the left is a home that we all have with all flammable things around our home. The one on the right is the home that has been mitigated, meaning they took the proper steps to put a Class A roof. They did the windows, the 5-foot ember resistant zone over their home. Oftentimes folks get confused when they talk about get a 5-foot clearance around your home. They think they have to clear their whole yard. No, it's only 5 feet. And if you look on the right, you'll see how small that space actually is. But the interesting fact is that embers will typically travel. And in the home on the right, you can see everything was just ignited. They said in less than 20 minutes, everything went down. Why? Because everything was flammable. They had mulch, everything was wood. But as you can see, as the fire spread throughout the entire structure, it stopped. Where did it stop? Where did it stop? Well, if you can see down here lower, you can see there's still embers, fires burning close to that fence. That metal fence. Do you see it? No? Okay, I'm going to move a little. Sorry. Right here. This is the embers. So where did it all stop? At the gravel, at the fence, right? That's the importance of home mitigation, is that those small steps can help protect your home. So we encourage you to take a look. We have these in the back. We also have them on our table back there, so feel free to check out. There's ways, this is the way how you can fortify your home and take the proper steps. You can get fire-wise safe, work with your community members, your neighbors, to ensure that you're mitigating. Folks, and we go to the next page. When you do this, the Insurance Commissioner had introduced the Sustainable Insurance Strategy. How many of you guys have heard of that? Okay, I have another one-pager back there because I don't have a lot of time. But what I will emphasize on is one of the parts of the components of the strategy is that you're able to essentially use, the insurance companies will be able to utilize the catastrophe model. All that is a rule-making tool. What does that do for you? If you mitigated your home, guess what? They have to price you accordingly, because now they're pricing you based on risk. Now, part of the caveat for them to actually use this tool is that they have to commit to 85% of their market share in high fire distress areas. So that's part of that. So that means that insurance companies are going to be looking to go ahead and look at new policies that they're going to be covering. They're going to be looking at folks that have been mitigated. So you do get better pricing. Now, insurance companies, one thing to keep note is that insurance companies can cancel you if you are too high of a risk. So you want to do what you can to mitigate that risk, reduce the risk, and most importantly, that you're documenting everything that you're mitigating so that you can submit it to your insurance companies so that they can do. Now, the main focus of the strategy was to make sure we modernized it, make it accessible, make it resilient, but most importantly, keeping on the forefront consumer protection. Now, did you see affordability on that? No. Do you think that was an oversight? Well, no. Because remember, this is a strategy that was composed to stabilize the insurance market. And I don't know about you, but you can't make affordable what doesn't exist. Right? And so these were the strategies to ensure that the market would get stabilized. And that was a priority, is to stabilize. Once you can stabilize the market, make it competitive, then you can start really aiming for that affordability. But right now, it will continue to. So great news is, going to the next slide, is that under the sustainable insurance strategy currently right now, we have already 5 companies that have already committed to growing in California, and we are expecting more to follow. So these are the insurance companies. The effective date is when they're able to implement these new rates, when they're able to write, and they're committing to writing in high distressed areas. So far, these are the ones that we have. And we can go to the next slide. Now, I'm going to give you some quick tips to how to respond when you're getting a non-renewal notice and you're trying to find insurance, right? How many of you have received a non-renewal notice? Okay, what's the first thing you did? Yeah. Perfect. Then what happened, if you don't mind? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So she asked already what happened, right? And is there anything else can she do to mitigate would be the other question. So the next step I would encourage her to do, if she hadn't already, is to contact the California Department of Insurance. That would be the next step. Contact the California Department of Insurance, because what happens is we can take a look and make sure that everything is within regulation. If there's anything off, maybe the noticing, we just want to make sure everything was done correctly. Look, worst thing that can happen is they receive a notification from us trying to inquire about your policy, and they can go, you know what, never mind, it was an oversight, we're reinstating them, right? Worst can happen, you waste your time. It's okay, but take that adequate step to ensure that you're getting what you need. Next thing you can do while you submit that complaint to us or that request for assistance, you want to start searching. In our webpage, we have over 100 carriers that are admitted to do business here in the state of California. If you click on the consumer tab, if you stop on our table, I'll show you exactly step by step how to do it. Essentially, you're able to call the companies directly to get those quotes. I encourage you to go page by page, go through market share, start with the lowest, the ones on the last page, because they have the least amount of policies and may be open. Look, you're going to get a lot of no's, but eventually you're going to find a what? A yes. All right. And then the last thing, of course, you all have heard or know of the California Fair Plan, right? The insurer of last resort. It's not fair at all. That is not ran by the California Department of Insurance. It is also regulated by our department. So make sure we know those differences. So if you have any issues with them, please submit those complaints over to us. The last other thing is the surplus lines. One thing to note with them is that they're not admitted carriers through us, so they're not guaranteed through the California Insurance Guaranteed Association. So if they were to go insolvent, we're not liable for that. You're on your own. So next slide. Disaster preparedness. Our next presenter will be tapping a little more of what to look into your policies and coverages. But what I do want you to note is you want to make sure you're identifying your risk, that you're keeping all contact updated information up to date. Because if a disaster strikes, you want to have the information ready and accessible at arm's reach. You want to make sure you're doing an annual tune-up, right? It's like our vehicle. We maintain it, right? Every so often, but every year you're doing some type of maintenance. We encourage you to do the same, because every time, how often do you get a new policy? Your renewal. Used to be a year, right? Now it's like, what, 6 months for some of you? Every 6 months, they're giving you a renewal. You want to make sure you're double checking that everything continues to be the same. A lot of what we learned in the fires was Oftentimes, it was an oversight. They forgot to check off a box and left often some consumers without coverage. So you want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and taking a look at that. You want to make sure that you're preparing your home for mitigation, of course, keeping a home inventory updated. We do have a sample and one-pagers back there that show you where to obtain those. Making sure that you save them digitally, and that you also take the proper steps to mitigating your home. If you do go FireWise, there's oftentimes they do have grants available. Then there will be grants that will be coming out through our department soon. So we do encourage you to stay connected with our department to talk about and keeping up to date. Now, the Commissioner's Office in the California Department of Insurance, there are 3 legislative bills that are coming up that our department is currently sponsoring. And it's the Smoke Damage Recovery Act by Assemblymember Gibson, 1795. This is really just stating smoke remediation standards. Insurance companies are required to remediate that. However, there are no guidelines to how they go about it. And so to streamline that process and release the burden over to the insurance and removing it from the consumers, because you're already paying for the insurance, that would allow them to get a clear guide. Same thing with the Disaster Recovery Reform Act. It really provides coverage gaps and it provides policy clarity. We have more information on the back of those if you want to learn more, or you can also scan that QR code. And lastly, it's the Make It Fair Act with Assemblywoman Calderon, and it's to reform the FAIR Plan and really get them to be more accountable in those areas. And like I said, we have more information in the back or on our table for that. Additional resources that are available with our department. And remember, these resources are free to use. So any question, doesn't matter how big, how small, do not hesitate to give us a call. We have understanding your policy, cancellation notices, as I mentioned before, complaints regarding any claims that you have been initiating or processed, any general questions really. Home inventory guide, we have those available on our webpage. You can find over 100 carriers. We do have a low-cost auto insurance program. We'll have that on our table as well, and we can explain if you're interested in finding more out. That is liability only, and that's to assist those that are foregoing insurance because of the cost. And information guides and general questions regarding home hardening is also available. We can go to the next slide, please. Lastly, this is our consumer alerts. This is where you're going to find out of the grant that I was mentioning about that's going to provide, I believe it's about $10,000 to help mitigate your home. The application process, when it's ready for processing and approval, it will come out through our consumer alerts. So we encourage you to sign up and be in the know of the new regulations that are coming up, knowing fraud preventions, business deceptive practices that are occurring, and trends, and any insurance issues, so that you are on the forefront and are before that, so that you don't become a victim or prey of that. We go to the next slide. We do have a statewide education series coming up. Our next one will be in referencing to residential insurance. So we encourage you to log on. It's free and it'll be virtual at the commodity of your home. Get information about residential insurance. So we encourage you to log on. In August will be healthcare. October will be about business. And thank you so much. You've been a great audience. If you have your phones out, scan, provide a quick feedback, 2 minutes, less than a minute. We like to always improve our presentations.